Good morning, my student. This is the course of novel. Today we will send to you something related to a new topic, which is literary criticism. So this is one part of the novel because you cannot finish novel course without getting an idea about how to analyze the text in your own perspective or from the theory perspective. So we need to understand something about literary criticism. In the future, there will be another course we do which called literary criticism or modern literary criticism. And literary criticism, that's how to criticize the work. So it's a study, discussion, evaluation, and interpretation of literature. Sometimes the word criticism puts people off because in everyday use it has negative connotations. We usually think of critic as the kind of grumpy person who seems to exist solely to find problems and stress faults. Okay, so to make it as a point of view, it's about evaluation, and it deals with literature because it's literary. My own words is a method used to interpret any given work of literature. The different schools of literary criticism provide us with lenses which ultimately reveal important aspects. Why do we have to analyze everything? Talking about experiences enhances our enjoyment. Talking about experiences involves a search. So you can read further. It's about structure, context, what is written, how the text manipulates reader. So you can realize how it's important for us to read and think. So criticism here helps us to understand the relationship between authors, readers, and texts. That's the point. And literary criticism here analyze, study, and evaluate works of literature, form generally principles for examination of works of literature. And what is literary theory? The capacity to generalize about phenomena and to develop concepts that form the basis for interpretation. You are going to study 8 paradigms, but here we are not going to study them, but we have to understand them. We have formalism, Marxism. So all of these 8, they are theories. We have formalism, Marxism, feminism, psychoanalytic, cultural criticism, structuralism, both structuralism and the archetypal. We have also to add the reader response to talk about it in general. Thus, there are many more like these theories: reader response, biological, cognitive, socio-political, sociological, moralist. But here we just finish it. Then, on the other hand, we have 4 variables. When I ask you about 4 variables of literary theory criticism, we have 1, the word, the author, the text. And when we talk about the text, beyond the word, real word, and other texts, like we trying to compare it with other texts somehow, and we try to compare it with reality, and we try to compare it with imagination or metaphysical word that beyond the word. And last, we have the reader, how the reader will take it. So formalism, structuralism, like formalism is about the art, structuralism is about the language system, psychoanalytic, author, reader, text, and how it feels. Gender studies is about the word and the author and the gender inside the study or inside the novel. Post-colonial is about the word and how the colony. Marxist about the theory of Marxism against maybe capitalism. Territorial, we have text and the word. Understanding the map, when we need to understand the map, formalism and deconstruction are placed here because they deal with primary text. So deconstruction is also helpful to discuss the structure or the way of forming the sentences or maybe the poems. Usually it deals with poems and long poems and short stories. Historical approach relies heavily on author and the word, how the history changed the mentality of the author, how the author already affected by the history or affected by the present or future, and that's why he could write something about the history, or it could be historical novel. Reader response is concerned with how the work is viewed by audience. In this approach, the reader creates meaning, not the author. So that's the point. Mimetic criticism seeks to seek how, or to see how will work accords with the real world. So mimetic is like, is it okay to share it with real world, or is it okay to feel it with real world or not? Sometimes it can be fantasia, it can be something about just imagination, or a story from your own thinking. It's not exist in reality, or it's not exist in reality. So this is the point. Psychological approach plays outside because it can depend on how it applied. Sometimes the history, mimetic, archetypal, the idea of Jungian collective, unconscious, and reader response. Finally, it deals with psychology of the reader, why and how he or she sees it, and why this writer focus on that topic or idea, why not another. Likewise, feminist, minority, and Marxist. So we are not trying to talk a lot about it. We try here to re-understand the definition. So formalism has the advantage of forcing writers to evaluate work on its own terms rather than to rely on accepted notions of other writer. Works best when applied to poetry and short fiction. So formalism usually deals with poetry and poems, short stories, usually short story with fictional story. Attempt here to discuss what? Discuss form, structure, organization, word choice, multiple meaning, and that's the case of formalism. Then, if we want to talk about formalism, new criticism, it's from the America and England, and formalism, it's usually centered in Russia. It started with England or in England, but later on it moved to Russia. So here Richard is the first one who published something about practical criticism, and then later American critics like John Crow Ransom and Warren and Brooks, they focus on new criticism in adaptation with formalism. So we say formalism, it adopted by Russian writers. Formalism here also, when we remember that words, again, it's not important for me, but new criticism here, to see it from a modernity way, how the text may contain numerous messages but must have unifying central theme created by the perfect union, and the methodology for finding meaning is clear. Here also impact of formalism, we can find it approach or pervades many other critical theories. Reader response. This is very important theory. We have to understand how we need to reflect our opinions from own perspective, education, experiences, values. This is the reader himself or herself. You have to show your opinion after you read any literary work like novel, short story. What's your opinion about it? Are you interested in, do you find the language amusing, or do you have that enthusiastic feeling when you read something? This is the way for a reader response theory, and you have to link it with your current or present life. Reader response also can be about what? About impressionistic. What's your impression? Fine. Reader response also has interpretation. Text interact to create meaning, and also a text truth is relative. It should be about the truth. That's the point. Here, reader may reach the same conclusion about a work, but approach the task quite differently. So at the end, most readers, they can reach what the author looked for. Reception of the theory. Okay, let's move to another one. We need to see structuralism. Structuralism here, it means to discuss the structure of language. We don't want to focus on it, so we have the level of structure. It can be lingua and parole, everyday speech, or it's about the English, standard English. We can discuss sentence syntax, derivation, interpretation, why he used that structure like hyphenation or semicolon, whatever, in case of structure. Biographical criticism, we are not looking for biography here. Sociological criticism is about the social life, like schools, magazine publishing, or fashion. That's how it affected the reader himself or the author when he wrote that one. We have feminist criticism. Under the sociological criticism, we have feminist and we have Marxist. When we talk about feminist criticism, this is a very important theory because it looks for feminist critique, the analysis of work by male authors. So the female or those who want to discuss it from their own perspective, they look for male authors only, and then discuss what the depiction of women. So another one, genocriticism, is about the women's writing. So if we realize like Virginia Woolf, she's a writer and she's a very well-known author, so we have to take her work and criticize it as work by women. That's the two types, feminist critique and genocriticism. We have also some information here. We are not looking for it, but we have to understand that Kate Chopin, she published the first work about feminist criticism. Then let's move to Marxist. It's about political case. Karl Marx from Russia. He already attacked the capitalism that already had an ideology for America and England, and you know Russia, they got the ideology of Marxism. They're working against each other, and it's very important for many writers who take the advantage to write against each other politically and religiously or legally about the governments. Marxist can be what the conflict here, strongly influence fiction. They wrote a lot about fictions. New history is about the history, how compare literary analysis to dynamic circle or to future, past, and present. And here the ideology is about slavery, rights of women. That's such a topic in new historicism. What changed before and what's going on right now. Okay. Moreover, here we have the new historicism, like analysis of work, which is critically evaluated, and we have here Kirchner and Mendel. They have written about that topic 2038. That's the new historicist. They imagine something after 30 years. New historicism also reader influenced by the culture, so no objective reading of work is possible. You should be, affected or infected and contracted to your culture. New historicism also, this is some point like texts have no final interpretation. You have open-ended interpretation. There is no limit. And that's one point of new historicism. You have the imagination, full imagination, to realize or to understand that text based on your own way. No one will interrupt you. Okay, psychoanalytic is analysis and the insight of the human work, and that's why there is a very well-known author which called Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud always deal with psychoanalysis theories and work. And then we have the end. We need just to look at the archetypes example. We have scapegoat, we have hero, villain, we have outcast, temptress, we have mother, father, mentor. So this is archetype topics, and you can find that themes can be about fall from innocence, stories of quest and initiation. You can look forward for it from internet. And last we have George Orwell quotation. Here you can read it, it's not important. Thank you very much for listening. I wish you read it deeply. And what we need from all these issues, you have to understand and realize the meaning, and then you need to understand how we can apply it or implement it on Animal Farm by George Orwell. Thank you very much and have a good day.